Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, greetings, good day, good week, good semester. So this is the first day of the fall semester, August 23rd, 2021. And I'm putting together a little intro welcome video for you. Normally I wouldn't be doing this, but there's some changes which I'll talk about in a second. I sent out an email a little bit ago, just sort of giving you a heads up. So hopefully you're following the trail here, and we'll get you all squared away. Real quick, my name is Donovan Conley, and this is COM 320. It's called Language and Thought. And a bit about myself, I've been in this department, this program, since 2004 is when I got here, so a little bit. Seen a lot of changes, and this is like, my home, my academic home, and I have a strong connection to the students, the campus, my colleagues. Special place, I think, and I'm happy to be here, even if here is virtual for the moment. So my work, my scholarship is in rhetoric and in a little bit in cultural studies as well. So I'm really interested in culture. I'm interested in sort of the politics of culture. I'm interested in how it is that culture shapes and influences and conditions behaviors and thoughts and preferences and subjectivities and all of that. The work that I've been doing the last decade or so has been on food and ecology and taste. So thinking about how food and where it comes from and how it's handled and processed and what we do with it and what it does to us and how all of that can be considered rhetorical, or a lot of it. And now I'm sort of moving a little bit away from that and more into this business of technology and the technical question, because I've discovered that the more I write about food, the more I'm actually writing about technology. Not necessarily in a positive, happy way either, right? And so feels like something more and more that I'm having to reckon with, is this question of technology and how it affects sort of everything we touch and experience. And obviously it's deeply connected to the problems that we're encountering in terms of information and trust and the groups and their truths and the other groups and their truths. And so this class is really pitched at the heart of a lot of those challenges right now. So moving into the class then, first thing I'll talk about is the format change, right? So this is a class that was designed to be, conducted in the classroom. I just made the decision a few days ago, about maybe a week ago, that it's probably best and most prudent if we pulled back and conducted the class in a remote fashion, at least initially, okay? So this isn't necessarily like we're going all online for this entire semester. This is let's pull away to start out with, and I will try to give you as close to an in-classroom experience as I can. So hence these videos. I usually get pretty positive feedback on these lecture videos that I do. And so I use them to try to talk directly and almost intimately with all of my students about the course, the material, the world around us, and they seem to have good values. So the plan is to conduct the class in terms of the syllabus just like we normally would. So I have the schedule is conducted in terms of weeks, and then each week is separated into the 2 days, right? So when I do an online class, it's just weeks. I'm not terribly concerned with the days, but we may end up going back to the Tuesday, Thursday if the numbers start getting much better. We might go back to the classroom, and then we're back to the daily schedule. And so everything that you'll see in the syllabus is laid out on the Canvas page, or at least it will be. I'm still kind of editing and revising some of that stuff. And the thing that I'll be doing is I'll be adding these lecture videos. This is just the intro one, but I'll be creating another one for this week. Don't want to jump ahead too much, but this week is orientation, and then we've got on Thursday we've got general semantics. So I'm going to have another video that I will post in Canvas that I still have to create, talking about general semantics, right? Now, there are videos that are associated with the content for general semantics by Irving Lee, by I think mostly Irving Lee actually. And I think Irving Lee was who Berman studied with at Northwestern. And so those are historical documents meant to, just illustrate what the general semantics school of thought was about and what it was attempting to do. And then my videos will be commenting on those videos, right? And sort of talking them through and explaining. So that's basically the substitute for coming to class are these videos. I try to do like 20 minutes or so. Kind of a shortened lecture that you're getting all the relevant content that you need in terms of why are we reading this and what's important and so on. So each week there will be videos by me posted early in the week, hopefully Monday, but Monday. It'll need to be Monday. Tuesdays are kind of toast for me, but maybe Tuesday morning. And that will be relevant for that week's learning, right? And then that's the way we'll proceed. So you'll have me talking at you about the content that's in the syllabus, and everything should flow on the Canvas page very sort of logically, naturally, and correspondingly. So syllabus and Canvas should match up. I should probably step back and talk about the class itself, language and thought. Sorry, I've recorded like 3 or 4 versions of this video, and I can't remember if I've covered it yet, but I don't think I have. Language and thought started in this business of general semantics, a mid-20th century school of thought that comes out of the Second World War and concerns over kind of the manipulation of public trust, the manipulation of public narratives, of information. We're talking about propaganda. We're talking about, distortions, inaccuracies, systemic distortions, right? Planned distortions, all this kind of what we might think of as like the rhetorical manipulation of language and therefore thought to serve certain kind of political ends, right? So general semanticists were really worked up about the possibilities of error, confusion, or worse, prejudice and all that kind of stuff. And they tried to come up with some really simple kind of ways of thinking about language and about thought and about the outside world and so on that meant to try to like reduce confusion, reduce vagueness and ambiguity. It did not, take over the entire academy. It's kind of fizzled out. So it's more of a historical thing, and we're going to look at it in a historical context, and then we're going to kind of move forward, right? So this is like mid-20th century, and then we'll sort of jump through the 60s, 70s, 80s. It's not a history class, but we'll kind of look at what's happened since the general semanticists were doing their thing, and we will kind of complicate it along the way, right? So as we will see early on, the first thing I'm asking you to read is just a short few pages by Stanley Fish on this business of like the difference between serious man and rhetoric man. And the general semanticists we are going to call serious men, and then the rest of the class is kind of like the perspective of the rhetoric man. All right, and we'll see kind of what that's all about. But after we go through the general semanticist stuff, we will kind of spend some time looking at why it was a troubled enterprise and why there was so much more kind of complicated external stuff that it's hard to account for, right? And this is largely kind of I would say the development of environmental kind of influence, and it gets sort of it increases, and so it ends up in this world that we now live in that is just sort of overrun by technology and digital computation and wearable devices and signals flying around, and it's really, really changed and affected the thing that's at the heart of the general semantics enterprise is like the consumer of information, the individual, right? And the general semanticists thought of the individual as this kind of self-contained and very rigid kind of creature, where if you manage to get your thoughts right, then you could get your communication right, and then all the rest of us can do the same, and all's good, right? But the individual, that creature, that entity has been besieged by so many different kinds of influences and so many complicating factors that it's really, really hard to think about the aspirations of the general semantics in the same way today. But we still want to hold on to this idea of it would be better to have clear expression. It would be better to have understanding, right? It would be better to have cooperation than the alternatives. And so we do want to hang on to the aspirations, but we're going to ask some challenging questions about some of the assumptions and maybe the methods along the way. So I think that's it in terms of the kind of the format of the class. I hope it all makes sense by looking through the syllabus and then the Canvas page. If you have any questions, by all means, reach out, and I'll do what I can to to address it. There's only 2 different kinds of assignments in this class. There's going to be 3 short papers, around 5 pages, and 2 tests, a midterm and a final. I'm taking the same approach with most of my classes because I have I'm teaching 3 different classes this semester, including a grad seminar, and it's just a lot, and I have a lot going on besides that. So I can't get too fancy with my assignments, but I do try hard to make them count, to make them really conceptually provocative and a really kind of enriching, challenging, but fun exercise. That's the hope. And so we will spend about a month on general semantics and just sort of like, what is that all about, right? And then from there, we move into, we have our midterm, and then we go into environment as persuasion. And so there it's like, what are all the different kind of environmental pressures and influences that the general semantics just kind of like minimized or just wanted to kind of like set off to the side, but yet nevertheless are hugely important in terms of actual practices of communication and influence and persuasion. So we look at doublespeak or kind of euphemistic language and jargon and so on, and then we look at the spectacles of consumption that surround us all the time and that beckon us and try to seduce us. Nudging and captology, that's the use of kind of computerized technology computation as ways of nudging and forcing and convincing us to do things, and so on and so on and so on. We talk about media. We talk about data valence, and so how it is that our devices are surveilling us through data. We talk about morality and how powerful morality is in the face of even our most ardent wishes for objective reason. Morality, passion, these things are hugely important. We see this today more than ever. In my own lifetime, I've seen the kind of the grip of morality and emotion and pathos, right? Thinking of Aristotle there. So we'll look at all of that. And then at the end, it's called Toward Shared Understanding is the hope at the last kind of section of this class. Like, how might we try to gather ourselves? Because, rhetoric, communication, these, going back to the ancients, these are the arts of citizenship. These are the arts of belonging to a community. How do we process information? How do we create information? How do we produce ideas? How do we receive ideas, right? So we want to end off with somewhat of a kind of ethical kind of final move there, which is like, what can we do better, right? Or what do we need to know about where we're at and our relation to one another? And I don't know that these are the solutions. These are just some really good kind of paths forward, I think, or good reminders. So that's kind of the class. I do ask you to read through all the policy stuff and just look through the syllabus in general, and in particular, and go through it. There is no class or the book that you need to buy for this class. All the content will be offered to you on the Canvas page. The one thing that I'll just kind of like asterisk here is because this is only the second time I'm teaching this class. I don't think I mentioned that yet in this version of my lecture. This is only time number 2. So the first time was back in 2019, and I've already made a bunch of changes based on that first experience. They say it takes like 3 times teaching class before you get sort of comfortable with it. But for me, it's like these things evolve constantly over time, right? So this is already a very different class than the one I taught 2 years ago. I think it's better. I'm more excited about the kind of the coherence of it. But, I'm going to learn a lot through the experience in terms of what works and what doesn't work. I will ask for your patience on that side of things. I will do my very best to be patient and flexible in terms of, the challenges that you all face. Deadlines and family stuff and work stuff, and I'm doing my best to be open and responsive and flexible, and so I ask the same. This is a fairly new class. I think it's a great class. I'm excited about it, but if there's any kind of clunkiness, it's the newness thing, and I would love feedback. It's like, oh, that was great, or I didn't quite see how that fit in. I appreciate all that. And then, the videos that I'm going to be creating each week, like I said, I'm going to try very hard to get them done Monday, maybe Tuesday at the latest. Again, those videos will be on the week's content material. But if you don't see them right away, please don't panic. Just sort of hang in there, and I'll do my very best. I'm going to be creating a lot of videos while we are in this remote setup. 14 minutes. Okay. So that's actually pretty good. I note the due dates for all the assignments on like the 3rd or 4th page. The due dates are, yeah, third page. I've been making syllabi for quite a while now, but I usually get something wrong. Something doesn't line up in terms of the due dates or whatever. I've gone through this a number of times. It should work. But if anything's weird or confusing or wrong, please let me know. Otherwise, we will proceed. Once I'm done this intro video, I have another one to make for my online 409 class. If you're in that class, hello again. I'll see you there. Just another kind of, sorry that we're in this situation. I would love to be looking at every one of your faces because I have wonderful exchanges with students in the online format. But you don't see faces, you don't see embodied individuals, and it just gets a little bit very vague and abstract after a while. And so I really wish that I could be there with you, and I do hope that we get to. So just be ready. Like if the numbers start getting much better. And it feels like we're kind of out of the woods again the way we were back in, July, then we'll revisit. Just be ready to go. So, let's see. First week, have I said everything? Yeah, so by all means, start going through the material for this week. The Stanley Fish little excerpt there, I think, is a good way of framing the class. And then the stuff by Irving Lee, the preface and the Just What is General Semantics, that'll give you a little bit of an intro and a kind of initial, like, here's what we're starting with. It's not necessarily like, this is what we are doing the entire semester, but this is where we're starting, mid-20th century, an attempt to reduce confusion, error, ambiguity, conflict, right? Those aspirations. And then we're going to kind of track the story up to our contemporary moment, really. So I hope you are looking forward to the class, the experience, the material. I am. I love feedback. I love interacting. Again, I will be in my office for office hours, which are Wednesday and Thursdays in the afternoons. I'm going to be in my office physically. All right. So I teach my grad seminar in class, and I have a bunch of other stuff going on campus. So I will be around. We're just going to separate from the classroom, the cramped classroom with masks. Don't want to do it. The numbers are not looking good, and the whole arrangement's just kind of lousy. So hopefully this is an okay substitute. Again, I will try to make these videos very dynamic, robust, informative, engaging, and all of it. And we will proceed this way. So hope everyone's well. It's going to be a good semester. It's going to be better than it's been. And we're going to have fun, and we're going to learn a lot. So looking forward to hearing from you, and see you in the next video. Cheers.